Arjun and Meera's marriage looked like a dream come true. An Indian groom who had built his life in Australia, and a stunning bride who seemed devoted and pure. But on their wedding night, the perfect love story unraveled into a chilling scam, and what began as celebration ended in betrayal, obsession, and deadly revenge. Arjun had always been known as the quiet, hard-working son who never complained, even when life tested him. Moving from Punjab to Sydney had been a dream fulfilled after years of struggle. He had spent long nights driving taxis, saving every dollar, and slowly building a modest but secure life. His parents, proud of his determination, often reminded him that success was incomplete without marriage. They wanted him to settle down, to have a partner who would stand by his side and share his growing achievements. Arjun had resisted for a while, telling them he wanted to wait, but the loneliness of living abroad and the longing for family warmth made him eventually agree. Through extended relatives in India, the proposal came. Her name was Meera. The first photograph he saw of her left him stunned. She had a gentle smile, deep expressive eyes, and the kind of traditional beauty his parents always admired. They described her as respectful, cultured, and family-oriented, the ideal match for someone like him. Arjun felt a quiet sense of relief. At last, destiny seemed to favor him. The marriage was arranged quickly, both families celebrating the union as if it were a blessing from the heavens. When Meera landed in Sydney, Arjun was at the airport with flowers in hand. She looked even more radiant than her photographs, dressed in a simple salwar kameez, carrying herself with elegance. People who met her in those first few days were enchanted. She spoke softly, praised Arjun's efforts to build a life, and won over his friends with polite charm. To him, she seemed everything a man could ask for. Arjun believed he had finally found the love and stability he had dreamed of, unaware that behind her warm smile, a secret plan was already unfolding. The wedding day arrived with all the grandeur Arjun could afford. Determined to honor his family's traditions, he spared no expense. The banquet hall was decorated with golden drapes, crystal chandeliers, and flowers imported specially for the occasion. Guests filled the room, dressed in dazzling saris and elegant suits, their voices rising above the sound of the dal drum. Arjun wore a cream sherwani embroidered with red silk, while Meera entered in a glittering bridal lehenga that caught every light in the hall. She looked like a queen, and all eyes turned to her with admiration. People whispered about how lucky Arjun was to have found such a beautiful and graceful bride. The ceremony unfolded with laughter, music, and the aroma of rich Indian food. Every moment was captured by photographers and videographers, preserving what seemed to be the happiest day of Arjun's life. He placed jewelry around Meera's neck, gifts bought with years of savings, and her family accepted heavy gold bangles and envelopes filled with money. To Arjun, this generosity was a symbol of love and respect. To others, it looked like a display of prosperity and devotion. Yet beneath the celebration, a subtle discomfort began to stir. Meera smiled brightly for the guests but avoided even the slightest touch of closeness with her new husband. She greeted relatives with folded hands, posed gracefully for photos, and accepted gifts with polite gratitude, but her eyes never lingered on Arjun. He convinced himself it was shyness, the modest nature of a traditional bride adjusting to her new surroundings. As the night drew on, Arjun felt pride and exhaustion mixed together. He believed the sacrifices he had made were worth it. To him, the lavish wedding was not only a union of two people, but also a foundation for the future. Little did he know, that future had already been written with betrayal. When the final guests had departed and the music had faded into silence, Arjun felt a wave of nervous excitement. The wedding was over, the rituals complete, and now came the moment he had dreamed of for years. The hotel suite had been decorated with flowers, candles, and silk sheets, a perfect backdrop for the start of his married life. Carrying the weight of tradition and expectation, he believed this night would seal their bond as husband and wife. But as the hours stretched, he began to sense something was wrong. Meera sat apart, her body stiff, her expression unreadable. When he tried to close the distance, she pulled away. What followed shattered the image of love he had built in his mind. In a calm but cold manner, she revealed that she had no interest in him as a husband. Her purpose in coming to Australia was simple. She wanted permanent residency, and he was the means to achieve it. The warmth she had shown in front of guests, the sweetness that had charmed his relatives, all of it had been an act carefully designed to lure him into this trap. Her words hit him like a physical blow. Years of saving, the trust of his family, the hope of companionship, all of it dissolved in a single moment. Meera warned him not to resist her demands. If he failed to apply for her immigration papers quickly, she threatened to accuse him of abuse, knowing the law would favor her story. Arjun's heart pounded as he sat frozen in disbelief, his dreams turning into ashes. The woman sitting across from him in bridal clothes was no partner, no companion. She was a stranger who had already planned his ruin before the wedding night had even begun. The next morning, after a sleepless night filled with dread, Arjun forced himself to act normal. Meera moved around the apartment with a cold indifference, speaking little and offering no sign of remorse for the words she had spoken. She behaved as though she had already established control, demanding coffee, making phone calls in hushed tones, and treating the place as her own. Arjun, though broken inside, decided he needed answers. The only way to know the full truth was to search for it himself. While she showered, he carefully opened her handbag, his hands trembling as if committing a crime. What he discovered inside left him numb. Hidden beneath her cosmetics and travel papers were photographs of another man. In one, he had his arms wrapped around her. In another, they smiled at a wedding function in India, not as strangers, but as lovers deeply connected. Alongside the photos were folded letters and scraps of paper filled with affectionate words, promising a future together once she had secured her Australian residency. Arjun's stomach twisted as he read message after message saved on her phone. Each one revealed the same plot. She and this man had chosen him as their target. They discussed the money they would take, the gifts they would receive, and the day she would be free to leave him and start a new life with her real partner. The betrayal cut deeper when he discovered she had tried the same with another groom in Canada, but that plan collapsed when the man's family grew suspicious. Australia was her second chance, and Arjun was her victim. His dreams of marriage had been reduced to a carefully crafted scam, and he realized his entire future had been built on a dangerous lie. Days turned into weeks, and what had once been Arjun's hopeful marriage transformed into a prison of humiliation. Meera no longer bothered to hide her disdain. She used his credit cards freely, filling the wardrobe with expensive clothes and accessories, each purchase digging deeper into the savings he had worked years to build. Arjun watched helplessly as the money he once dreamed of using for a home and family slipped away in meaningless luxuries. The nights were the worst. From the other room, he often overheard her laughing softly on the phone, whispering in a voice reserved for someone else. Sometimes she spoke in Punjabi, assuming he wouldn't catch every word, but the tone was unmistakable. She was speaking to her lover back in India, boasting about how easily she had fooled him, mocking his sincerity, and discussing plans for the future once her residency was secured. Each sentence burned into him, stripping away what little hope he had left. Friends and relatives who had praised his good fortune began asking uncomfortable questions. Why did Meera never appear with him at social gatherings? Why did she spend so much time shopping instead of settling into her new life? Arjun covered for her with weak excuses, but inside he felt the sting of shame. The proud son who once made his family beam with pride was now the object of quiet whispers. Sleep became scarce, replaced with racing thoughts of betrayal. The weight of being trapped between duty and despair pressed down on him every day. He had done everything right, yet his honesty had only delivered him into the hands of someone who saw him as nothing more than a stepping stone. The sorrow slowly hardened into anger, and that anger began to take root in the darkest corners of his mind. The breaking point came on a stormy evening when the air outside seemed to mirror the chaos inside Arjun's mind. He had spent countless nights replaying every detail of the wedding, every smile she had faked, every word that had poisoned his trust. By now, his anger had consumed the fear. He no longer saw Meera as a wife, but as the architect of his downfall. In his eyes, she had stolen not only his money and dignity, but also his future. That night, as rain lashed against the windows, he decided he would end the torment once and for all. He told Meera he had planned a surprise dinner by the coast, presenting the invitation as if it were an olive branch. She agreed with little enthusiasm, scrolling through her phone as they drove into the night. The car's headlights cut through sheets of rain, and the roar of the ocean grew louder as they neared the cliffs. Arjun's silence went unnoticed. She was too busy exchanging messages with her lover, laughing at words meant for another man. When he stopped the car at a deserted spot overlooking the black waves, she looked up, puzzled. Arjun presented the evidence he had gathered, the photos, the letters, the messages. Instead of fear or apology, she smirked, mocking him, dismissing his pain as weakness. Her contempt was the final spark. In a rush of fury, years of repressed anger exploded. The confrontation turned violent, his hands acting before his mind could catch up. Within moments, the woman he had once envisioned as his lifelong partner lay motionless. Shock numbed him, but the storm gave him cover. He dragged her body to the cliff's edge, the wind and rain drowning every sound, and let the sea swallow the evidence of their poisoned union. The morning after, Sydney awoke to clear skies, but for Arjun the storm had not passed. Meera was gone, and with her, the illusion of a normal life. He crafted a story, telling neighbors and casual friends that she had left him suddenly, claiming she was unhappy in the marriage. At first, no one questioned it. Some even nodded knowingly, assuming cultural differences had driven them apart. But whispers soon began to spread. Why would a bride abandon her new husband without explanation? Why did she leave behind jewelry and clothes? The gaps in his account became cracks that drew unwanted attention. Her disappearance was reported to the police by distant relatives who could not reach her. Investigators quickly uncovered troubling details. They found records of her immigration application, bank transactions showing heavy spending, and evidence that Arjun had been withdrawing large amounts of cash just before she vanished. His stoic demeanor only made detectives more suspicious. Without a body, the case was tangled in uncertainty, but the puzzle pieces hinted at a grim conclusion. Within the community, the story spread like wildfire. Friends who once envied Arjun now spoke his name in hushed tones. Families whispered warnings to young men abroad about brides who arrived with hidden agendas. Meera's name became synonymous with deception, while Arjun's became a cautionary symbol of how love and trust could be twisted into ruin. Though investigators pressed on, no trace of Meera's body was ever recovered from the ocean. Officially, the case remained unsolved, but the truth lingered like a shadow. Arjun lived each day burdened by the weight of what he had done, torn between relief and regret. The wedding that began in gold and music ended in silence and salt water, a chilling reminder of how betrayal can drive even the most ordinary man to deadly extremes.